How you guys doing? Um, Hope you guys are having a great day. Hi, I'm Rick. I'm an alcoholic. Uh, just want to talk about something really quick. This will be like really straight to the point. Um, since Code for Recovery is about mindset and a little offshoot topics here and there over time that I, think about or want to talk about, but right now we're going to be focused on mindset, which I feel, and structure, which I feel a lot of us addicts will, and again, that's broad spectrum across the board. We're not going to say this and that. No, just an addict. We're going to put everybody in one box and say, boom, here you go. Is our mindset, discipline, and structure. As I said in my first video, I'm very aggressive about recovery. I believe in trying to live a moderate lifestyle, living with what I need rather than what I want. But with rehab and recovery, it's the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm very aggressive about recovery. As I said in my first video, we were aggressive to go get drunk and high. Why not be aggressive about our recovery? What I'm trying to do really quick on a side note is figure out what draws more attention to more views, live or pre-recorded. And last time I did a live, it's hard because people don't know where the live video is on their YouTube, and it's rough. So it's just easier for me to do a pre-record. If somebody wants live, then I'll go live. But till then, I'll probably flip-flop back and forth. This week, I'm going to do a surprise. I'm going to be live on YouTube, and I'm going to take a little field trip since it's getting nicer down Kensington. So for people who ain't aware, and again, you're going to see what first responders deal with. And if you an addict in rehab and recovery, I'm going to throw a dose of what people seen us as. And you can see it from the eyes of a sober of how you were. Pre-messed up, but what's going to start that fire up, hopefully, is you're going to see what others people seen while you were that, and hopefully that keeps you straight and narrow. It does me, big time. So, what am I going to talk about today? We're going to talk about one of the four who's that I like to work on. And it does help. It's something that I stumbled across in rehab while researching and reading. And it's crazy. I went with some books and left with a lot of books. A lot on mindset, stoicism, military stuff. Getting back into proper mindset. And remember the three: mind, body, soul, or mind, body, spirit, are three things that we destroyed in our rehab, in our drinking. And we had to recover all three of those to be healthy. We all had to have that. And it starts with mindset, discipline. So I'm gonna look it up really quick. Somewhere on my computer where I have a bunch of stuff saved up on, dictionary and abbreviations and all of that. So we're gonna look at, everything starts with self-discipline. The definition of self-discipline is the ability to control one's feelings and overcome one's weaknesses. The ability to pursue what one thinks is right despite temptations to abandon it. Discipline. Self-discipline, which we lack a lot of. I am blessed to have served in the armed forces. And at one point in my life, I had that self-discipline, and I had drill sergeants and instructors and even my team leaders in active duty talked about moderation because they were really impressed with Spartan culture. So we did everything in moderation. And then as we, and again, we don't drink, not no more. We don't have that ability to be moderate with what we intake. So scratch that off the board. But self-discipline, you got to have the self-discipline to stay home. The self-discipline to fight the urge. the self-discipline to pick a phone up. You don't have to call a sponsor. You could call a family member, an actual quality good friend who understands what you're going through and he could be there for you. The discipline to say, if you want to go have a drink, go for a run, pet the dog. The discipline to say no. But we're going to take a back step. So what this led up to is the 4 W's when I was that I came across, and I have my interpretation of them. The 4 who's, should I say. The first one we're going to talk about, but there's 4, and we're going to do this in stages. Who you were before the addiction, and that's the 1. First one we're going to work on. Second one we're going to talk about who you were during the addiction. Ooh, that's a scary one. That's one that's going to make everybody hate me. I'll tell you that already. Who you are now during recovery. And the 4th one has 4 or a few offshoots of its own. Who you want to be tomorrow. We don't necessarily have to be tomorrow, the next day, but we get it. Who you envision yourself to be. And that goes into word terminology and the power of words. That 4th one, who do you envision yourself as, goes into who do I want to be, who I will be, to the power of who I need to be. And we're going to cover all that. It took me a while to come up with that, and I live by that. And me, I love the 12 steps. I love the 10 traditions. But as I said in the first one, is we're going to backtrack again to later down the road and focus on acceptance and accountability. This is where that falls into. These came from acceptance, accountability, and dichotomy of control. What you can control, what you cannot control. And that's hard even for me. Dichotomy of control is I'm still learning, fine-tuning it. We're only human, and we're going to get into that later. These I discovered as I was reading Stoicism heavily, and then the military mindset of drive and self-discipline. And what I'm talking about is when in the first video I talked about we are not born bad. We are not born alcoholics. I guarantee if you pick quality friends or family in the past who knew you, not the ones you're drinking and drugging and partying with, but ones who knew you when you were happy, joy, luck, love bug and jokester and all that, whatever, before the introduction to addiction, before introduction of heavy drinking and drugging, before we did all of that, when everything was in moderation. If we drank, it was in moderation. We didn't become an alcoholic overnight or a drug addict overnight. It took time. Well, this was way back then. Who were you? And the reason why I'm stressing this is what helped me. Again, this channel is about trips or little tools that help us individually with becoming sober and staying sober. So this is an open forum, as you would say, on exchanging of ideas. There were times when I look back, had a lot of happy joy moments, military, laughing, just the best moments. As I said earlier, yes, I drank, but a lot of times I was just enjoying life, not even drinking. I had a lot of good quality friends who I still talk to, 3 of them. Try to get in touch with a couple more, but over 20 years, people sort of forget who each other is. Plus, we're all old now. But they would tell you, man, we remember when you were just laughing and a jokester and a ball breaker, and those were the joy moments. So what does this go? I feel the first steps of our recovery, we have to look back at who we once were. Now, in rehab, I heard people say, I don't want to think about who I was when I was drinking. Okay, let's take it one step back. And when I personally said that, I said, well, I want to be the person I was before that. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, look, We were all laughing. We were all joking. We all had fun. We were all enjoying life to the fullest, minus the alcohol, minus the drugs, minus the depression that got out of hand. But the joy and the laugh and the moments, and everybody looked back. A lot of guys in the group in rehab were like, "Wow, that I remember those days." And if you don't remember those days, call a good family member. And let me tell you something. We'll talk about this later, but reach out. Say, I'm trying to remember how I was because I want to be the person I used to be before, strong. Now, this is where it was crazy. There was a time where people needed us and depended on us. Where did that go? That's not just recalling the happy moments, but look at when people really relied and needed us and depended on us. And that person is still there, buried under a bunch of shit, part of my French, that we got to shovel out. Get the shoveling. And don't cheat and get the backhoe. Put the work in and shovel. Dig that person back up. He's there, or she's there, or whatever you identify yourself as, they are there. I'm trying to be understanding of this. Who were you before? Man, that's hard to think of. No, it's not hard to think of. The reason why it's hard to think of is now we got to get past all the negative garbage and the BS that we cultivated over time. We got to get past that second step and go to the first ground, not ground zero, but the first one. Ground zero is AA, acceptance and accountability. That's ground zero. Once you get past ground zero, now you got to go into step one, which I call, who were you before? Also, you got to do a lot of self-analyzing. Yes, I've been reading a lot. I love reading, and I recommend reading to everybody. All you need is like 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes a day. You don't have to do that once. You can do it throughout the day. You're doing self-analyzing, not self-awareness. And let me get to this right now. I've got so many tabs open on this computer. Give me a second. Way too many tabs. Yeah, I got a ton of them. All right. This is the definition. People's self-assessment, analyze, you know what I mean. I'm horrible with words. People get them misconstrued and tied up all the time. Self-assessment usually involves using defined criteria to evaluate one's performance, often in a professional setting, like a performance review where you rate your skills and achievement against specific expectations. Self-analysis, or analyzation, let's go that way. A more in-depth exploration of the self, looking at motivation through patterns and emotional response to gain a deeper understanding of one's behavior and decision-making. Now we're going to look at the good side of this. Now looking at let me take a step back. There's never a good or bad side of a situation like this. They're all good. It's how you look at it and take it. Everything is good. We're going to look at the side where you're looking at the goodness of who you once were, not the drug addicted or the alcoholic mindset one, the one where we were free-spirited and lived life. Where is that person? Close your eyes and think. This takes time to do because it takes meditation. Oh, man, Rich, I can't do. Every word everybody says I've ran into is I can't. You can, you just don't want to. It's like drinking and drugging, right? I can't get sober, man. No, you just don't want to. Just be honest with each other. The first step of this too is also one of the many steps. Not going to say first step. One of the many steps is being honest with yourself. Right from the get-go, man. Got to be honest with yourself 100%. That's what a lot of people don't want to be with, because now we got to confront stuff. Well, I'm not looking at confronting anything. I'm looking at accepting all I've done. Confrontation means you're confronting and you're conflicting and you want to fight it. In my book, in my eyes, anyway, that could be open for debate. Acceptance means, yeah, I done screwed up. I did some really bad stuff. I accept it. Hard to stomach, easier to confront it, because then you can say, I can't do it and walk away. Accept it means you look at it. Yeah, I did it. I own it. Let's stomach it. Let's move forward. Not move on. Move forward. It's a big difference. People say, I want to move on. Move on means you're just looking at the glance and like driving. Oh, that's a cool view. Moving forward means you're stopping. You're looking. You're getting out. Now you're there. You're staring at it. I accept it. I'm at peace now. Moving on don't ever mean you're at peace. Just putting a Band-Aid on that with some super glue and some stitches and the bandage. Temporary hold, going to be there. It's going to rip open eventually. Moving forward means you've accepted what you did, accepted who you are, and that's looking at what you did as an addict. You're going past that. You're digging past it. You're going through all that rubbish. You're going further back because that is your point. That is the point of happiness. When you like, man, I remember everything. I remember, and the memories are going to flood back, man. So how this can be done, man, again, I got so many tabs pulled up. I got to really do better. Hold on. Bear with me. Okay. We have to do self-analyzing exercise or analysis. There we go. I said it. Self-analysis exercises. Bleh. Whew. Took a little bit. You want to recall a good memory through self-analysis exercises. And that's not easy. Because you got to quiet yourself and all that other stuff that's going to be in front of you, coming to you to distract you so you can get to that point. You're digging way back in your brain. I mean, it could be 20 years ago before you were drinking, or it could be as simple as 4 years ago. I'm not saying. That's up to you. When were you that good person? We've always been a good person. We just made bad decisions or bad mistakes. When were you that person that you remember yourself when everybody loved, everybody needed you, could rely on you? Everybody still loves you in spite of what our drunk and alcoholic and drug-induced minds think. Our family still love us. Our friends still love us. We just made bad mistakes, bad choices that could be fixed. And this is the first step. Who were you before? You could have certain exercises that you could do, for example. You can try techniques like this, man. Guided visualization, journaling prompts focused on positive experiences, memory mapping, which I'm not familiar. I think I did, I think it was EMDR or mind mapping. No, it was EMDR. It was EMDR. I did that EMDR when I was at the Hog, EMDR, which helped out a lot. It's scary. If you need it, I recommend doing it. You're going to be mentally and physically exhausted, but well worth it. Find somebody who really knows what they're doing, though. The next one, associating the memory with specific sensory details, listening to music linked to the memory, or simply taking dedicated time to reflect on positive moments that bring details to mind. So for instance, sensory recall, visualize, close your eyes and picture a scene that you remember. A lot of good things. Oh man, when I was a kid, I was at my best. Okay, go that far back if you need to. Grandma's house, Christmas time, the family. Good. Use that as a focal point. Some say, man, when I was younger, in my 20s and 30s, before all this stuff hit, I'd go hunting and fishing, or me and the family would use that as a focal point. But what sets it off? What brings that even stronger? There's got to be a certain smell. Sound. Certain sounds, man. Like, certain Christmas carols, not all, certain Christmas carols bring back happy moments for me. Certain smells, certain like baking smells, like cinnamon rolls or fudge or mashed potatoes or something like that, because my aunt was a great cook, and my dad was a hell of a baker. So certain things trigger those happy moments, Sound, like music, man. Like what sets me off, I'll be honest, is Aerosmith, because me and my family used to just bond and just hang out and have fun. And me and my dad would just be tearing stuff up in the garage, or he would show me how to build stuff. A lot I owe my dad. And even with my grandfather, certain mariachi music. I hear certain Mexican band playing, boom, I remember my grandfather, my grandmother. My grandmother always yelling at me, "You need to dance, mijo." So yes, that brings back times where I was like, I was that person. Memory mapping or mind map. Just, draw a diagram, or, something you could put on paper to remember, But sometimes as a sensory recalls that help a lot more, because we're more around sensory all day, sensory overload. Journaling, it's a little bit harder because you got to dive back, but you could turn these all into also steps. So if you're interested, I could, and you leave me an email or something, I could email you guys this. Little tricks that I pick up, and I ask really good friends who are doctors and therapists, hey, send me this stuff. So I could apply it and I could pass it on. Guided visualizations. Basically immersing yourself from an observational viewpoint. Remember those old movies where, like, for instance, I'll say Scrooged, where he's going down a bad path and he took him, Ghost of Christmas Past took him back and he said, "Oh, they can't hear you and we won't go. If you're my age, you'll understand and you're going to laugh." He's observing the happy moments. The ghost is having him immerse himself in those moments of joy. That's what you're doing from an observational view. And music association. There you go. Music goes into sensory recall, sound. So sort of separate but similar. Like I said, if you want to talk about sound, certain voices, but my grandmother passed, my aunt passed, so some of the stuff me and my dad talk about, certain tones in his voice is like, oh, boom, brings back memories. You got to listen. You got to be open to this. So again, these are all little things you're going to apply to recall who you were at that moment as a point, as a focal point, not a goal. Because again, we grow, we evolve, but it could be a focal point. Everybody says you're living this, man. I don't want to live in the past. I don't want to listen. We'll get into that later. You're not living in the past. You're not dwelling in the past. You're learning from the past. You're pulling an experience of positivity from the past. Do it all the time. People don't want to relive the past because it's some sort of trauma. Look, man, you want to talk offline about trauma. We've all had trauma. And this is also something that I picked up from my doc at the Hog, when she was telling me during my session, close. Now let's finish off with picking a happy moment. And that's all I mean, again, you cannot, the bad moments are going to come because the bad moments is what gives us perseverance, to persevere, to become resilient. And we'll dive into that later. But for now, who were you before everything happened? Stories help too. Talking to your sisters or your brothers or your cousins or your high school football friend, or whoever, I don't care. But limit it. Don't be like, man, you remember back when we drank all that? Eliminate that. Know who you were away from alcohol and drugs. That's my challenge to you, the viewer, or the addict. Who were you with no drugs or alcohol in your system, not even an experimental drink or hanging out with the boys at the high school and the girl, whatever, at the house or whatever, stealing dad's beers, it don't matter. Who were you with nothing in your system? That's a different, because alcohol gives us, it changes us. Some makes us angry, some makes us funny, some makes us stupid. But in the ultimate end, we all get depressed because it is a depressant. Same with drugs. Yes, that classifies marijuana too. I'm talking about nothing in your system. Nothing that would, any substance. Nothing. So think of yourself when you were just happy. No beers, again, no whiskeys, no wine coolers, no Zimas, nothing. No pills, no pot, no narcotics, no Xanaxes, whatever is out there, whatever your pick of the poison is. None of that. Think of yourself when you were innocence. Laughter and joy and happiness is the innocence that we will always have. Think about it. When you are truly laughing, man, that's the best high ever. That's the best feeling ever. Pay attention to that feeling. When you close your eyes and you remember a song and it brings back joyful memories, embrace it. Think about it. Man, why can't you ever be like that again? Why can't you? You can. Just a better person now. We've been through hell. This is taking you back to the beginning. And it works. There's nothing wrong with recalling good memories. Hell, there's nothing wrong with recalling bad memories, because the bad memories, like I said, the bad mistakes, whatever you want to call it, bad mistakes, bad choices, judgment, whatever you want to call it, whatever refers to you, even those teach us life's lessons. You just got to look for that lesson. But this is the beginning of a point. Now, military, it would be land nav. We're looking for this point. Well, okay, there's the point. How are we going to get there? You got to climb this hill, go around this tree, through this swamp, open this break, up this mountain, and you're going to fall, whatever. You're going to go through everything getting back there. All the bad stuff you did, your mind is naturally going to put it out there. Man, you can't, a little voice in your head, you got to face this. No, go further back. Challenge yourself. Because now you're going to go through all those memories. You're going to learn how to accept those. And when you get to there, you're going to be like, this is my goal. It's weird. It's hard to explain, but it's not hard to do. You just got to fix a point. Find out what's going to jog that memory. And embrace it. Who were you before? Talk to your kids. Man, Dad, before you, or Mom, before you started doing this and this, we did. And there's not piling a guilt trip. People in our mindset think, now you're making me feel guilty. No, they're not. You're feeling guilty. They cannot control your emotions. It's your emotion. You feel guilty. And they're not making you feel guilty. They're telling you the truth. Man, you used to be like this. Man, remember when we did that? That's it. Don't feel guilty, man. No, take that. Man, remember when we went mountain climbing and you stepped in, or whatever the memory is, and you guys were laughing over it? Take that memory, because I guarantee you were sober. Whatever good memory your family's like, hey. And then they say, you started this. That's fine, accept it. Yeah, you're right, I did do that. I'm trying to better myself. I will better myself when I need that happy memory. Like, think of Peter Pan, right? I talk about the dark side of Pan. We're talking about the Disney. Oh, think happy thoughts and fly. Take that in consideration. Same concept. You're finding that happy memory as a focal point to drive you to be that happy again. You're there. That person's buried. Now we're just unshoveling them. And it does work. It does work. I do it all the time. I bounced it, off a couple people I know who's been sober for a while, and they love it. A couple therapists I know love it. You know, I talk to people at the gym. You'd be shocked at how many people you run into who work with addicts or are addicts themselves and recovering. And it's a great thing, you know, so, but I want you to focus on who you were before. Once you get to that point and you see, there's more happiness, that could be your strength. That could be your foundation right there to build on. Always build on happiness. You know, some people are like, man, I don't need all that because the joy that was ultimate in my family was my child being born. Take that happy moment. If that was your happy moment of who you were at your best, roll with it. That's up to you. But you got to find those memories. You got to find that focal point. You got and keep that focal point, because that thought, that happy thought, think about it. The happy thought's going to trigger good emotion. You're going to get that warm, fuzzy, tingly, literally tingly feeling like, ooh, that feels good. But what happens when you have an angry, upsetting, depressing thing opposite? You get flushed, you get tense, you start getting sick. You don't want to eat. You can't sleep. You don't want that. Then you want to go drink or drug. You don't want that. Thoughts create emotions. Think about it. An emotion passes in no time. Someone pisses you off. But when we start thinking about it and dwelling on it, what happens? Counter that. Think of a happy moment. Now you have a whole wide array of happy thoughts and emotions you could pick from. Whole list. Down. Man, I remember when I went to Disneyland. I lost my hat on Space Mountain. Got off and I threw up in the trash can. Is it a happy moment? Yeah, it was a happy moment. Goes to show me you can't handle roller coasters, you know, and don't eat a lot before you get on it. But the happiest side was I was with my family. Happy moment. Don't matter how far back you go. That is entirely up to you. We are looking at, even if you got to do it all through the stages, it's up to you how you want to break it down. Find those happy who you were before. If you were a teenager and you started drinking heavy at 16, 17 for 30 years, try to think further back. If you started and you became an alcoholic 10 years ago, 4 years ago, the memories are going to be a little bit fresher. But still, you could pull through that. If it's easier for you to be like, man, all up to that point, I was great from childhood on up, I had really good experiences, then pull from them. The minute, this is what this is teaching you, is the minute you start having a bad thought, a depressive thought, you could pull one or two happy thoughts. That's going to smash that negative thought down if you let it. But you know, that was today. For the rest of this week, I want you to think about who you were before you became an addict. Think about it. Write it down. Deal with the thoughts. Work. This is going to give you the work that you need to do to start facing everything. And look, what's going to stop you is a fear. It's fear. Fear is going to stop you. So now you got to face that fear. Punch fear right in the throat and move forward. But you got to accept everything. Ground zero is acceptance and accountability. AA. Ground zero. If you haven't done ground zero, you're going to have a hell of a hard time doing this, and you're going to have a harder time doing the 12 steps and the 10 traditions. I'm telling you that now. Ground zero. AA. Acceptance, accountability. Once you really, really accept everything and take an accountability, which, like I said last time, is rough, now you could be ready to take on who was I before everything. And if you need stuff sent, I'll let you know. Send me a message in the comment section, and I'll mess around, see how I can link stuff together. I'm still learning that. But for this next week, from now until next Saturday, focus on getting that memory down of who you were before an addiction. Everybody, I love you. Take care. Remember, one day at a time, one step at a time. And if you have to narrow it down to 1 minute at a time, that adds up. Small steps lead to victory. Remember that. Take care.